Hey mathematicians, in this video, I'm going to show you one last way to find slope or rate of change. And so far we've done a table and a graph and an equation. The last is going to be from two coordinates. So I'm going to zoom in here on the first example. And so you're trying to find the rate of change, which we also know is called the slope from these two coordinates. So imagine for a second that they're in a table, which is the format that you're used to. So what you used to do, or what you did in the previous method, is that you would look at your change in your y values, and then you would look at your change in your x values. Well, how did you figure out exactly how much they were changing? You subtract them, right? Because you would know the difference between 16 and 15 is 1, and you figured that out by subtraction, right? And so that's really all you're doing with the slope formula is you're doing what you already know how to do. You're finding the change by using subtraction. So you're still finding your change in your y. You're just doing it by subtracting, and you're still finding your change in your x. You're just doing that by subtracting, and you're still turning it into a fraction. So this is really all just another way of doing exactly the same thing you already know how to do. So we're going to subtract those y coordinates. Now, the first thing that we do need to decide is which one's going to be coordinate number 1 and which one's going to be coordinate number 2. Because honestly, it really doesn't matter. But I'm going to go ahead and label it the way that most textbooks are going to do it. They're going to say, since this is the first coordinate written on the page, that is coordinate number 1, which would make that your x1 and would make this your y1. And since this is the second coordinate written on the page, this would be your x2, which would make this one your y2. So we're going to do it in the order that you're typically going to see it in like a textbook, just so that it's, less confusing. So we're going to substitute y2, so our second y coordinate, into the formula. I'm going to bring down the subtraction that's part of the formula. And what am I going to subtract from that y coordinate? I'm going to subtract the y1, oops, wrong color, sorry, which is right there. Now notice that's not just a 16, that's a negative 16 that I need to put in there. So that's going to be important in just a second. And then I'm taking my second x coordinate, which in this case is negative 7, and I'm subtracting my first y coordinate. So that will be 19. So the first step is that I just took the formula and I substituted in all the values for that formula. So after I've done that, notice that I've got some double negatives that I'm going to go ahead and clear out of here, because the problem was saying I'm doing 15 minus a negative 16. So that means if I'm doing minus a negative 16, that means it's actually going to turn into the problem 15 plus 16. And then I'm going to bring down my other one. Okay, so now I'm going to do the math. So 15 plus 16 is 31. And then, oh, I'm sorry. I realized I forgot to bring my negative. Oopsie. So that's your negative. So negative 15 plus 6 is positive 1. Negative 7 minus 19 is negative 36. And because a negative divided by a positive is a negative, that means your overall slope is going to be a negative 1 over 36. So I'm going to do one more example for you real quick. So I'm going to set up my formula again. So my second y coordinate is right here, which means that's going to be negative 4. The formula has subtraction in it, and I'm going to subtract my y1. So that means I'm going to do negative 4 minus 7. And then my x2, my second x coordinate, is going to be negative 6. Subtraction is still part of the formula. And then my x1 is going to be negative 4. So I can see again, like in the last problem, that I've got a double negative here that I'm going to go ahead and change into addition. I'm just going to bring the other top part down. So this is negative 6 plus 4. So when I do the math, negative 4 minus 7 is negative 11. -6 plus 4 is -2. And then these two double negatives, because a fraction means division, and you're dividing a negative by a negative, it's going to end up being a positive 11 over 2. One thing that I should note is that it just so happened that in these two examples, I didn't have to simplify, but it is going to be necessary a lot of the time to simplify. I just wanted to show you the whole point of just the formula to start. And then another suggestion is that sometimes what people will do is they will just get in the habit of taking the two coordinates and rewriting them and then doing the change in y and the change in x kind of like you're used to doing on a table. So if you would rather stack the two coordinates up and do it that way, you are by all means totally welcome to do so. But believe me, this is definitely not going to be the last time that you are going to see this formula. So you probably want to make sure that you have some exposure to it for sure and practice with it.